Hey y'all, this is Jerry with Heart and Hand Creations, and welcome back. If you've been following my journey for my holiday vendor market prep, you know that we've had to delay some DIY of some of the displays for the booth that we are going to make. And last week, it was raining so hard, so we did an unboxing of some of the supplies that came in. Well, this is Labor Day weekend. It's Saturday, and you guessed it, it is raining. So, since most of all my planning has been done, the spreadsheets and checklists and all that, sourcing all my materials, which have mostly come in, and we can't do the DIY because I'm going to give myself a day off, Sunday and Monday, days off, so that I can enjoy the holiday weekend some more. So I'm going to go into full-on production mode. So today, some real work begins. I'm going to tell you, as you see, we're in my craft room. So I'm going to take a giant pile of material, so I've got some things here already spread out, and turn into finished products ready for the market. So I'm going to be mass producing my Christmas mini junk journals, and I'm going to kind of take you through my entire assembly line process. So this is where the grind really becomes real. Hopefully I can get this done in just a couple of hours. So let's get into it. So the key to mass production without losing your mind is to break it down into stages. First up, prepping all the components. I'm starting with the covers, which are these beautiful blank greeting cards. Let me show you. I've got 2 different batches here, and I'm going to be making 16 cards, and you can see they're blank inside. All I have to do is fold them. They have this vintage vibe, which I like. So they really lean into that look that I want, and I'm going to be inking the edges of every single one. So I'm going to be using this distressed ink and brushed corduroy. Next, I'll be preparing the pages. I'm using a mix of paper I've dyed myself with tea, coffee, food coloring, and even avocado, along with some patterned scrapbook paper. The main job here is cutting everything down to size so it fits perfectly inside the covers, which are 6x4 when folded. At the same time, I'm sorting through all my ephemera and making tags. Getting all the cutting, inking, and sorting done up front is going to be crucial. It's repetitive work, but it means the final assembly will be smooth and efficient. Now that the inking is done, I've decided to reinforce what will be the spine of the cover, where I'm going to be stitching. And even though I did ink the edges, I just didn't want white to show through, because I am going to cover the inside of these covers with patterned paper. So I've cut these papers down to 6 by 3 7/8, because the finished journal is going to be 6x4. This leaves enough room for me to then stitch the inside binding to put the pages in. So that will help reinforce that. And then I think this gives a neat little touch instead of having all this white. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to make sure and get all the edges, because I don't want anything coming up. And then all I have to do is line this up. And using wet glue, you get a little bit of wiggle room so that if you don't get it lined up at first, you can slide it around and not it and wear tape. If I had tape, that would be, if I stick it down, I wouldn't be able to remove it. It would tear the paper. So that's why I'm using wet glue. Now we have our cover. I like how this looks. So I'm going to be using 8 sheets of paper that I've dyed. And here is tea and coffee stain. This yellow is food coloring, although you can use onion skins and get a softer yellow. I just didn't have any onion skins. And the avocado gives us this pink hue. So believe it or not, avocados turns your paper pink. So, and some of the pages, it's very tough not to tear pages when you're dyeing them. So see how the edges are a little torn? But these will be cut off. I will use the 4x6 best part of the paper. I don't mind some of the blotches, but this blotch has a big tear in it. Well, a little bit of a tear in it in 2 places. So I won't be using that. And if I need to discard this paper altogether, I do have some other substitute papers that I can change it out. So that's what I'm going to do now is fold the papers and cut them down and fold them. One bundle of papers in a book, any book, to bookmakers is actually called a signature. So my journals, many junk journals, are going to have only one signature. But I'm going to add some more pages to these filler papers, tea-dyed papers. So the paper fits good in here with the 6, but you can see that I have about 1/4 of an inch hanging out of the cover. So what I need to do is cut this edge. So I am going to actually mark where I need to cut, and I'll cut inside that line. And I'm going to use a finger blade because my paper cutter won't cut through this thickness. I would have to cut individual papers. So what I'm going to do is line this up on my cutting mat and use my finger blade. I like using finger blades. It's one of the first cutting tools I learned to use. And then I'm going to line this up. And make sure that my ruler is straight. And then I'm just going to start cutting. Some people like the look of the pages hanging out a little bit. I like symmetry, and so I like everything tucked inside. So let's see if this worked. There, that works just fine. So now everything's nicely tucked inside. So when I hand stitch these in, that'll be nice and compact and held inside. Okay, so the pattern paper, I have lots of Christmas paper here. This is just a little sample of what I actually have in my room, craft room. I've got a deconstructed book, some actual paper that I got from Hobby Lobby, and some paper pads that I bought on sale last year after Christmas when they were on sale at Hobby Lobby. So now what I will do is pick out about 16 to 32 pieces of paper. So let me do that now. Now that I've sorted through my paper and chosen what I want to put in the junk journals, what I was doing when I went back through to pick out the final design is I determined that if I were to cut these the correct way, I could make these actually into pocket pages and put tags in. So what I'm going to do is cut these off so that the bottom I can just fold it up. So I've chosen ones that do not have one-way designs on them so that I can fold it, and then the folded pocket will not have an image that is upside down. So what these pages that are 8.5 by 11 that came out of the shorter paper pads, they are actually white on back. So what I was thinking I would do is fold it up so that the image will go on here on the white, and then I can ink the edges. But what I'm also going to do is, if I don't like that white once I've inked the edges, I'm going to use some of the paper scraps when I cut the 12 by 12 into size. I'll use some of the paper scraps and then line the pockets on the white side with a coordinating pattern, or get some of my solid cardstock and line it so that when it comes up there would be images on both sides. So what I'm going to do now is cut these pieces into the pages. So the pocket's going to be 2.5 inches. I'm going to cut these down so that they're 8.5, which these papers are already 8.5 this way, and then cut them into 7 5/8, which is just smaller than the 8 that I would need to fold them in half, so that they should fit in the journals nicely. And that now that I have everything cut to size, what I'm going to do is now score each one of these pages at 2.5 inches for my fold line for my pocket. Okay, that will work. So what I'm going to do is go off camera. I'm going to glue these two edges down and ink it, the edges here and the back, and see how this looks to see if I'm going to line it. Okay, so here's one that I've inked. You can see I put tags in here. I inked the back and the inside. And then once I put this ephemera in, tags, which will also be inked, and I may have some cut aparts to put in here as well, some other little ephemera. I don't hate it. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and leave these white. They could also be journaling spots. I could ink blend in here. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave them for now. And that's going to be my decision. And I'm going to have to stick with it. Okay, I've set those pieces, the pocket pages, over to dry. And while they're drying, before I fold them all up, because I've inked them and glued them, I am going to now use these cut aparts. You can see that some of them are already scraps where I've used pieces and bits before in other journals and albums. What I'm going to do is cut apart my ephemera and have that ready next because I'll need to cut them and ink them. I also have already cut previously these tags that I'll be using. I'm going to put 2 in each journal in the pockets. So I know I've got enough here. I've got 32 here that I can use. But I also cut some heavy white cardstock. And I'm going to back these. So all I have to do is now clip the corners. But I'm going to back these with this cardstock. That makes them sturdier. That will create a journaling spot here or for a little small photo. These will be inked as well because what I want to do is put an eyelet in here and some twine to match the twine that I'm going to use to sew the binding, sew my pages into my journal. So I'm going to get all that done. But first we'll start with cutting. I've been making tags, and let me show you how I'm doing this. So I've adhered the tag, and there's several different collections. These were cut aparts found in different collections that I've not used in other projects, and I still have some that I haven't cut out. So if I need to go grab some, I still have some. And I just cut a piece of heavy cardstock to go on the back for journaling, as I said before. So I've adhered these 2 pieces together, and then I'm just snipping these corners for that shape. And then all the tags that I have this space for the hole on the image, and it's wide. So I do have these wide eyelets. And I have several different colors of metal eyelets. So I'm going to use these that are bronze, sort of a bronze. Can y'all see that? Sort of a bronze, and they're wide, so they will match the part that's printed on here. So I'm using my Crocodile, and I'm going to just simply get the hole. Let me make sure I get the right side. I'm going to put the hole there where it was created in the print image, and then set that eyelet in there, and then use my Crop-A-Dile on the correct setting so that it is going to match that through. And so there I've got my tag, and then I will just put the string twine in there, and then we'll have our tags. I will be inking these as well. So that's how I'm creating the tags. Just thought I would throw that in. So now I'm going to do that with the rest of them. I'll do it off camera. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to be adding to my pages, along with other ephemera and tags, is stickers. Now these round stickers here came with the card sets that I got that I'm using as the album covers. And then these are just stickers from various collections that I've not used. Sometimes I buy 2 sets of a collection kit to make a scrapbook album or folio, and I may have a sheet left over, so I collect those, and so I have many different stickers that I'm going to be adding to the pages, the blank pages, the dyed pages. So with that, I'm going to start putting together the journal, and I will begin the binding process. So I'll show you that in just a sec. Let me just clear off my desk and we'll get to it. Before I decorate my journals, I want to go ahead and sew them together, bind them. So here's the order that I'm putting the paper's signature together to insert into my cover. So here's my cover, Santa's Ride. And remember, I put in a liner sheet here on the inside cover. I reinforced the spine so that when I sew, it has a little extra to hold it together. Then I decided I wanted to put in a red or green solid cardstock that is inked as the first page. And since this is all red, I decided I'm going to go with green in this one. So that'll be my first page. And then the pages that I've put together, you remember the tea stained, the avocado stained, the food coloring stained. And then here is my pocket. So I've got about 4 pages, and then I've put my pocket in that's been inked. Then I have several more pages, about 4 more pages till we get to the center. This is paper that I got from Hobby Lobby or Michael's last year. And so it is not cardstock, it is paper. So it is does not have a back pattern, but I thought that would be okay for the center because we can have a sticker or decoration on here. It will have the binding in the middle, and it'll be good journaling space here too. And I've inked that. So we flip this way, and of course there's the back side of that paper. Have our filler pages. Then we have our pocket, the other side of the pocket, some blank pages, and then the back, our cardstock, and then our back cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure, and I still am okay with the way it's fitting inside. So I'm going to take these out and really try to get them in there as tight together as possible. I didn't use my bone folder on this because I do want there to be a little bit of a soft edge and not a sharp edge necessarily here. So that to me looks good. So that's the order I want my pages. And I want to make sure that I've got my pockets and trees going in the right direction with my cover. That looks good. Now I'm going to use, there may be a technical term for it, but I'm going to have 3 holes in here. And that's where I'm going to sew it, is with the twine. And I've got this Christmas twine that I'm going to be using. So what I'm going to do first is I have to have a tool that's a poker tool. It's got a very sharp, you might be able to see it against the green, a sharp end called an awl, A-W-L. And I also made myself a template. This was an envelope I was going to use as a pocket, and I was doodling on it and didn't like my doodles. So I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to use it as a template. So I've got my lines marked. I've measured out where I want. I've got it 1 in the center, which would be at 3 inches since this is 6 long, and about 1/2 inch from the top and 1/2 inch from the bottom. So what I'm going to do is simply put this in the middle, keep my book, let me get that kind of evened up, keep my book somewhat closed, and then where my lines are, I'm simply going to punch a hole all the way through, even to the cover. And you can see, can you see that that is coming through? Let's see. See it, the point there? So I'm going to punch that just a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to go to the top. Now the next thing I have is a tapestry needle. It's got a big eye on it, and my twine. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm sure that you can measure it, the twine out somehow, like the length of the book plus some. But I'm just going to go ahead and get a good amount, because I can always use any extra that I have if I have to cut off any in making dangles and things. Okay, so I have a good bit, so I'm just going to put this in my needle, and this is pretty thick, so I will be able to see, be able to tell if it's not going to work out. I think I got way too much. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm leaving my awl in place, is I'm going to take my needle and go all the way through, and you can see it went right there through all the pages. That's the easy part. So I'm going to pull it all the way through. Okay, let me get that all the way through. Pull it all the way through. Now what I'm going to do is leave a length of twine here inside the book. I'm not going to pull that all the way through, and I'm not going to knot it yet. Then I am going to come down to where my awl is, and this is the hard part, is getting it to come back through the cover. Oops, I can move my template, sorry. Into the cover and through the pages. Oh, I got lucky. Look at that. So there's my needle. Okay. All right, so let me pull that through. Okay, so you can see now we've got part of the binding on the book itself. Now I'm going to go all the way to the top and push this through. Now I'm going to have to finagle this because my papers did shift. So bear with me just a minute while I get this lined up. Okay, there we go. Put that through. There we go. And you can see that now we have a length here coming through the length of the book on the inside. That becomes very important, and I'll show you why here in a minute. And you can see I've come down. Now I'm going to go back through the center. I don't want to split this, these. I don't want to split those with the needle. I want to come up beside it. So let me see if I can get in there without splitting the twine. You come up, pull this through, get the end. Now I'm going to snip it because I really have enough for the next book binding on here. Okay, now what you want to do is to make sure and pull this tight. You don't want to rip your book. You don't want to get it so that it is bowed at all, but you do want to get it so that it sounds like it's going to stay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push one of these in, and I am simply going to knot it with a double knot. Let me make sure that there's no slack in it. So there's 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is now I've got 15 more to go. And what I'll do is I am going to do that off camera. So I'll see you back here shortly. Okay, so I'm back, and as you can see here, I have finished books. I have 16 finished books. But boy, did I learn a lesson. The twine that I used on the first book that I did on screen, showing you the 3 hole method, that twine was just too thick. It had 3 colors in it, so that was 3 different cords or strands, and each one of those strands was made up of very small twist of smaller threads. So what I opted to do was just to go for this red and white thread, and it worked much better. So it still has a Christmas vibe, but it worked much better because it's only 2 cords, two strands. The other thing was that it worked better for me to measure the book length twice with the twine and just use that amount. I was using way too much when I was showing y'all what I was doing. As y'all could see, I was struggling. And then the other thing is I decided to put a closure on these. So here's what I did. I've got a mix of red and green ribbons with the seam binding, crinkled seam binding. And so I put them inside. Let's see. Let me get to the very front cover. Inside cover. Remember how I was doing the cover? I went ahead and anchored the ribbon underneath this paper before I laid it down. So those were the 3 lessons: that I needed a closure, I needed shorter length of twine, and I needed a smaller diameter of twine to make it work. So that's what I've been doing off camera. So let me show you this one since I've got it in my hand. This one is decorated. I'm still thinking I might do something to the front cover, but right now I'm going to consider this a finished product for the sale purposes, and I've still got time. I can always come back and decide if I want to add anything to it. So what I did was I went through, and of course I put my tags in the pockets, and I also added stickers to the book. The first page as colored cardstock, and if I had put a green cover here, inside cover liner, I used red here, and vice versa. So this is the final product as it stands now. And then I just can tie this back together. You can see why it needs a closure. It wouldn't lay flat. And I just felt like it needed this, because if it's going to have things added to it, if it's just writing or drawing or doodling, that's fine. But if anybody added anything like collaging or added pictures or anything like that, it might get a little fatter, chunkier. So I thought I would go ahead and put a closure. And just like that, we have a finished batch of Christmas mini junk journals. Turning a mountain of raw materials into actual inventory is a huge milestone. Honestly, this kind of repetitive production work is a true test of patience, which I was put on this earth to learn. It's been a hard journey, but it's the only way to be truly prepared for a busy market. The production grind is far from over, but a huge chunk of it is now complete. I've completed my greeting cards and now these junk journals. In my next video, we have to tackle the less creative but equally important task of pricing, tagging, and officially logging all this new inventory. Or, if it's not raining, we may do some DIY. So thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and don't miss the next step, because next week it may be a surprise as to what we're doing. This weather, we never know. Thank you for watching.